What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, want to talk about some PlayStation news today. There's actually quite a bit, right? So they did their earnings report, and man, oh man, we got some tidbits of Spider-Man 2 sales, right, reaching 10 million, and the two that I want to focus on, right? There's a few other things. If you guys want me to talk about those, maybe I can make kind of a follow-up video. I want to talk about the generation thing, right, that we're entering the second half of the PS5 life cycle, and I want to talk about that major IP thing where basically they're not going to have games for major IPs up until at least, let's say, maybe a quarter or halfway through next year, okay? So to quickly knock out the PS5, console thing, this was a quote going around, earlier in the morning. I think one part of the quote was misquoted, but generally the deal is we're entering the second half, right? And they talked about it in terms of, hey, we're probably going to have diminished profits, right? We're not going to make as much money on PS5s going forward because we're in a way, we're almost wrapping it up, or we've just reached the point where we're not going to make, a ton of money on it. And to be honest, from at least what I know, right, for a lot of these consoles, even going back several generations, they either break even, lose money, or make, I don't remember if it was like the PS3 or PS4, but I want to say one of them, they made maybe $10, $15 on every purchase, and I think the other one, they were maybe break even, or they lost money. So it's not crazy to me for them, to say that out loud, but for the, generational thing, I think when you couple it with them talking about the whole major IPs, right? So when you think about Ghost of Tsushima or Spider-Man, God of War, now many of these are obvious. We knew we were not going to get some of these until later next year, right? At the earliest. That's not shocking. But I actually think when you combine the stories, it's where people, tend to get upset, right? We are in the second half, and I would controversially say, now look, I think there's many, many good games that come out every year, right? I'm not a channel and I'm not a person that plays 2 games a year and then complains about the state of the industry online like so many others and says, hey, gaming, now maybe gaming is going in the wrong direction, but you have a lot of people talking so negatively about gaming and they play, just maybe the 2 to 4 biggest games of the year. They play nothing else, right? Which those people I don't take seriously, and those people I don't really care if they think the gaming industry is going in the wrong way. I would controversially say this has been a pretty weak generation. In fact, it's probably been the weakest, and I wasn't around for PS1 and even like PS2. I guess I was in it. It was my first kind of big console, but I wouldn't say I'm into it, like I am now. This is probably PlayStation's weakest, generation, maybe ever. And I say that without exaggerating. I do exaggerate quite a bit, and that's just a personality trait that I need to fix, but I do kind of believe that. And I would say that out loud, and I think that's why, right, when you hear that the big name franchises aren't going to get more games anytime soon meaning a year. But I think people, the mindset is, oh my God, we're already halfway in. Now, here's the thing, shouldn't actually be surprising. And in fact, I wasn't surprised at all. It's just kind of depressing to see it, written, or to see basically some of the head people at Sony, not even PlayStation, right? Sony talking about this stuff. And because we've talked about it for a long time, right? 2028 is the next generation of consoles, and that's at the latest. That was in the court documents back when, the Xbox Activision Blizzard. It may have been moved up. You have the reports of the Xbox console maybe even coming out in like 2026, and they're not really doing formal generations anymore. So as far as PlayStation is concerned, do they do it in 2028? Do they do it in 2027? Either way, we're 4 years in, and we have maybe 3.5, 4 more years to go, and then we get the PS6. So we've known that for a while. I've said that for like a year plus, right? And it's always depressing to kind of say out loud and to hear it, but then when you have them talking about the financials and them making like direct statements and then they say it, it's more depressing. Okay, so that's one thing. I mean, it's not a shocker. It's not going to change much. Hopefully the second half is good, and even though we have to wait a bit and this is kind of a gap year, right, where not much is going to happen, well, that does bring us to the next part of this, right? So the way they worded it, I don't think was amazing. I think people have taken it, and ran, and I think they've actually ran or run or whatever the wrong direction, okay? I think people have gone the wrong way because, and this is the tough thing. This is actually that ambiguous kind of thing with how they said it. It depends on what you define as like major, right? So when they talk about basically the next 12 months is going to be very quiet, right? You're not going to see Venom. You're not going to see Horizon, Ghost of Tsushima, God of War. But notice exactly which ones I'm saying, right? These are big These are major, right? These are very, very impactful. Now, the thing is, just because they make a lot of money, just because they sell, doesn't actually mean they are the best of them. Now, that's up to you, right, for your own opinion to decide. But they never said anything about new IPs. In fact, I believe in the report they said that. So in the next 12 months, it does not mean that there will be 0 games coming from Sony themselves. Now, actually, we've talked about 2024 from PlayStation, and yes, the grand strategy is relying on others. It's relying on deals that they've made, right? Relying on Rebirth to kind of carry the way. Relying eventually, even in 2025, Death Stranding 2 to carry the way, right? But you have things like Rise of the Ronin and even Helldivers. Now, they're publishing it, so it's a little bit different, but Helldivers and that studio is not owned by them, right? So it goes to like the definition of what you consider first party versus third party. But some of this we've already talked about, right? We know that 2024 is the year of the Stellar Blades and Silent Hills and things like that. That is maybe not what it was designed to be, but that is what this year is going to be, okay? But now you could say, well, now they've said it out loud. Now they've like put it in stone that, well, there's nothing coming out. Well, the thing is, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean there's nothing coming out, because a game like Concord, right, which is, from them, that is going to come out. Now, that's a live service game, so you could debate whether it's going to be good or bad, and that's totally fine, but that is a game, releasing. There's the rumors, Jeff Grubb said earlier of Astro, right? Maybe I'll make a separate video specifically on Astro, because Astro's Playroom might be the best PS5 exclusive. That's a hot take, and I don't think people are ready for that conversation, but Astro's Playroom might be the best PS5 exclusive game out there, okay? But the rumor is maybe we'll get that this year. So you can have those. In fact, if I really want to reach, right? The ideas of like remakes or remasters, right? Remember we talked about a rumor of even Infamous, say, coming to PC. There was that, rumor. So say Infamous 1, 2, Second Son, say they come to PC. It depends on your definition of major, right? Because Ghost of Tsushima sells, 7, 8, 9, 10 million. Last of Us, God of War, Spider-Man. But if Infamous comes out on PC, is that a major franchise? Now, 10 years ago it was. But now, I don't actually know that, right? Now, if I really want to reach, say, and here's honestly a pretty okay example. Doesn't have to be for this game, but could be used for something else. So say Sly Cooper, right? My go-to, the thing that you're probably all tired of me saying. But Sly Cooper, right? Is that a major franchise? The answer, I'll tell you right now, the answer is no. So, and again, I'm not saying directly Sly, but something, in that way, maybe Jak and Daxter, maybe, other things like that. Say you did a Sly Cooper, remaster collection again, and you did it in the next 12 months. Could they do that and still hold true to the statements they said today? Yes. Because it is not major, it's not massive, right? This is not the same thing as Spider-Man or God of War. So, honestly, simply put, I think they're just bracing people. And some of the headlines I've seen online is Ghost of Tsushima 2 is not coming until at least March, April, May of next year. That's not a shocker. That's not shock to me, at least. To me, it's not a shocker at all. The Venom game that, has basically been leaked at this point, right? But say that's next. Or say just some Spider-Man project, right? Major, full-on release. That is not coming out until the summer of next year at the earliest. Now, is that surprising? No. But to put it out there, you're now saying it, right? So now people, maybe some people are hearing it for the first time. So those people, and again, that's why I don't think maybe it was worded all that well, and obviously journalism isn't exactly helping it, right? Because if you're the average Joe, you might look at that and say, I can actually believe, some people believe this, right? You look at it and you say, next 12 months, 0 PlayStation exclusives. That's what they said. The truth is, no, that's not what they said. You know what I mean? That's not what they said. So I think they were kind of just bracing people for the top end, the high end franchises, right? Like, hey, don't expect these games. So, hey, like Uncharted 5, right? If that is going to actually happen. We've talked about that on the channel, right? Well, that also would not count, right? That's not going to happen in the next 12 months. So things like that. But you have Blue Point is making a remake of kind of an under the radar game, or they're making their own game, like a brand new game. That could come out like that would qualify. That doesn't have to fall in what they said. So, ultimately, I'm not really worried. I'm not worried for several reasons. Number one, because of what we just talked about, right? It's too ambiguous, and it's kind of confusing in the wording, and I see how people are getting it kind of twisted. So there's that. I don't actually think it's as bad as people are making it out to be. That's number one. Number two, honestly, my fallback, and I have said this so many times, I play a lot of, this is selfish. This is literally me personally. I play a lot of games This year doesn't have to be dominated by anybody. You can have a little PlayStation, little Xbox, little Square Enix, little EA, and that's honestly how I operate. So for me, that kind of diversity, I guess, element of things, I'm not going to sweat it. If we don't get Ghost 2 until next summer, number one, I knew that. I've actually said that out loud before on this channel. And number two, that's not the end of the world. There's going to be other games between now and next summer that'll hopefully, divert my attention. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. It definitely made a big splash, I'd say, online, though. And so there's my thoughts on it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.